It's time for another power-packed episode of Headspace with Dr. Mike. Each week, Dr. Mike is committed to addressing real-life, sometimes polarizing and controversial issues while offering practical and informed insight. Listen in as we discuss hot topics that matter to us and the communities we live in.
I'm just gonna just confess this, feel what you feel. I'm gonna tell y'all, your boy is something going on because we are steady talking. We did the intro and everything, y'all, and realized we weren't live yet.
We had started the conversation and all that jazz.
I'm looking at the feed and I'm like, why is it not popping up in Facebook? And then I look, we haven't gone live yet. So anyway, this is real. My mama is here because I was like, usually my mama times in real quick. Mama, we see you. Welcome everybody to Headspace. This is episode 26. We recorded on November 5th. Those of you that tune in live with us on Facebook and YouTube, please share. Chime into our conversation. We definitely going to be talking about some things we want you. Hey, Bree, what's up, Pastor Bree? You know what, Pastor Bree? I got to talk about something before you go. Anyway, I want you all to know that we are so appreciative of you, and then we're also appreciative of our podcast family that listen in after the show. When we actually post it on podcasts, as soon as we finish the broadcast, we actually post it on most podcasting podcasting platforms. And so we just want to acknowledge you all. Thank you very much for tuning in to Headspace with Dr. Mike. We really appreciate you, and keep the DMs coming. The good DMs. Don't get me in trouble with your DMs. Give me the good DMs. These days you gotta
be specific.
You gotta be specific. Slide into my DMs on some good stuff that won't get Sister Dorsey back after you. All right, so let's just go ahead and keep it real. Christy, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing better. I had a little. Mason was down with a little something, and I got a little something, probably from him. But it was like 24 hours, and I'm back at it. Thank you.
Listen, those baby germs.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like, and this is going to sound so awful, but y'all bear with me with this. It's like they find just the worst. They're just petri dishes because their immune system is starting to get developed and that stuff, and they bring that stuff home, and then after a couple days or a few days, they're fine, and you ready to go.
Exactly. I'm so glad. I was like, please, Lord, first time you feel anything, like, oh Lord, don't let me have COVID, please.
Yeah, we don't want that. No, we don't want the C word. No.
So definitely. So I tested negative, and I didn't feel like it. I unfortunately I've had COVID before, and I was like, I didn't feel like it was that. So I'm just glad I knocked that out. We threw all the homemade remedies at it, and the next morning I was like 85%. Yeah.
All right. Well, good to go. Look, it's a process, y'all. And speaking of COVID, are you up to date with your shots and everything with it?
No, I have not gotten the next booster. I have not gotten it, or the flu shot. I need to get both of those.
Yeah. I did, because I have my schedule, like even including today on through the rest of the year, is bananas. So we had a health fair at my church a couple weeks ago, and I went ahead and did the flu and the COVID together. And
bam.
I just went and did it, and I had a couple days. It was a little rough, not awful as the past ones were, but it was, you definitely could feel it. And I had some good sleep at night, but we're on the other side of it. So anyway, y'all take care of yourselves. COVID is still out there in case some people think it's not, and as well as other things out there. So we definitely want to make sure we're staying in good health. So look, petty politics. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's get after it. Petty politics. We're there. We are what? 72 hours? 3 days away.
You're breaking it down by hours. Yes, 3 days away from the midterm elections.
Yeah, Super Tuesday's coming, y'all.
It's always. I don't remember in recent years. It's every midterm election has been like razor thin margins, and just, you don't know which way it's going to go.
Yeah.
So, typically things flip after the presidential, that's just the cycle of how our politics works, and, how our society tends to think, or I should say remember or forget, and we shall see. And
I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Christy, and I'll share mine. What are the key issues for you this election? What are like some key things that you're like thinking about as you're thinking about I've already voted, but as I'm still thinking about, I did early voting, but what are some key things that you're thinking about? I'm just curious.
I mean, obviously, inflation. I mean, if you go into that ballot or even outside of the ballot and your mind is not on the bottom line, your pocketbook or your wallet, then you're deceiving yourself. Or if you're at the top echelon of the, population with finances, then you're not worried about that, maybe. But, you're of course you're concerned about how you're going to pay for your heating bill and get groceries and put gas in the car and even do some of the fun stuff that you want to do with your family, especially over the holidays. So of course that's, you're thinking about that. You're thinking about the fate of the country. What is the shift going to mean for other decisions down the road? I mean, you have to think about all that, but your money, well-being, I mean, you have to think locally initially, and about where you live and the things that you need. I'm thinking about, where I live. We need some things built up and revived in the area so that we can attract people and keep what we need in the community. So that's what I'm thinking about.
I'm along the same lines, and one of the things that I try to encourage people is, a lot of times the things that we see aren't because of something that happened immediately. A lot of times they are the repercussions of decisions that were made previously, right?
Absolutely.
So, for instance, I'm gonna be honest with you. A lot of us, our income taxes are going to go up, because if you're a middle class American, if you're not in that 1% tax bracket, because the caveat to the tax cuts in the Trump era was in 4 years' time, the income tax would actually go back up unless something happened in Congress, which did not, to change that. And so, a lot of people want to blame the current administration for it, and it's like, no, there were some decisions that are made earlier on. Case in point, here in Maryland, there's a referendum on marijuana, on the legalization of it. But that won't go into effect, I think, either till July or October.
July.
Like,
it's July.
Okay, July 1st.
July.
Yeah. It's usually July 1st, which is the new fiscal year, which makes sense because, there's other things that have to go into place. Like they have to figure out how are these things going to be taxed? How are, what's going to happen to make it so that people can purchase these things? And, how is it going to be regulated? Like other laws have to go into place. Legislature has to put some laws in place, like for instance, when it comes to what happens when a person is found with it on their body, or you know what I mean? Like that's just one example. So I think a lot of times we think, oh, because I voted for it, it won or it didn't win, then this is going to happen tomorrow. It takes time for those things to happen. So, but needless to say, I am a huge advocate for voting. There was a time in our country's history when every citizen, well, that's debatable about if you would consider a citizen, but everybody was not allowed to vote. Absolutely. The people the people who were impacted by the vote were not allowed to vote, right? And this was not just people that look like you and me, Christy. This was females. That at some parts of the country, when we talk about the fact that we leave it up to individual states and jurisdictions to make laws, there were some parts of the country that if you looked a certain way or were married to a certain person or you had a certain disability, you were not allowed to vote. Like that stuff is real.
Yeah.
That stuff is real. And so, any chance I get to go in there and vote, look, I fuss about what the government does and doesn't do. And you know why? Because I go and I vote.
You have the right to. Absolutely.
So, Anyway, speaking of which, there's something that's happening. One one of the things that I know we've been paying attention to is SCOTUS, Supreme Court, is in session. And y'all, they're hitting the ground running. They are, first of all, every now and again, something with the college loan forgiveness. I just found out that Amy Coney Barrett has said no to the Supreme Court hearing another case that's been filed by a group that's trying to get Biden's loan forgiveness. They're trying to take it all the way up to the Supreme Court to say it's unconstitutional.
Right.
And Amy Coney Barrett, like, I was kind of surprised. She said, "No, we're not even going. Nah, player, we're not even going to listen.
We're not entertaining it.
Entertaining it." That's what she said.
Yeah.
Because
that goes right back to, I know, and you're leading into the whole brain freeze. Affirmative action piece that's now in discussion, and what's the fate of that? I mean, that goes back to your original statement. I believe you said this, elections have consequences. If you didn't, I'm saying it now. And that things take time, and that who you elect, you got to think about all those things. Who you elect determines who they allow into office and who they affirm, and all of that. And then those decisions impact you and your family, and where your child goes to school or can't go to school. And though you have to think long term. I think we're so short-sighted. No, I know we're so short-sighted when we go in that polling booth, and even when we're having political discussions, we're so short-term and short-sighted, and we're not thinking long-term, and that's what's leading to a lot of the disruption that we see in our society.
Absolutely, yeah, and let's talk about it real quick. Affirmative action. It has been. First of all, I will say this: that affirmative action has been misconstrued.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people have. Did I ever tell you about? So y'all know I went to PWI. Bree, I don't know if you're still on here. Bree and I went to the same school. I was Bree Dupree, Pastor Bree Dupree. I've had her on the show, and she's gonna have to come back. Bree, by the way, let me know in the chat. We need to get you back so you can talk about Embrace Conference, because we're heading down to Orlando, Martin Luther King weekend. Matter of fact, I'm finalizing my details about that. So you let me know in the chat, make sure I got the dates right, and if there's a link, because I want to make sure we share that with everybody. And we also going to get you back on, because we need to talk about what you're doing. But anyway, I went to a school, PWI, and I had a student who had the audacity to tell me, well, you took my best friend's spot in the freshman class.
Wow, that's
like, he really believed that. He really believed that. Like, he believed that in his spirit. And I was like, oh, so your best friend was in the top 5% of his high school class?
Yep.
Over 1,500 on the SAT.
Were there crickets after you? Did you have to read a little bit of your resume, Mike?
A little bit. I had to read a little bit. I had to read before read was a thing.
Yeah. They
I was on a scholarship for the speech and debate team. I said, oh, so he's a good debater. He speaks and he brings value. Nah. So the point I'm making is that there are folk who really believe that. Like, they believe that it's because you're black, all of a sudden you get a heads up. No, it's not even that. It's the whole concept now. I don't even think it really is affirmative action, to be honest with you. I think it's one of those things where I've worked in admissions, and there are a number of factors to determine whether or not a person should be brought to the school. By the way, for your school to get value, it needs diversity.
Hello. And funding in some places.
I mean, I'm just saying. Like, in order for it to have value, it needs diversity of thought, diversity of opinion. By the way, it's not just about the color of my skin. It's about where I come from. It's about my socioeconomic background. It's about the skills and talents that I actually bring to the fold. Right? It's about all of those things. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to say that now I can't put that in as a factor for admission. That doesn't even sound right. Like, to be honest with you, that doesn't even make sense. Doesn't even make sense. But yet, people want to believe that. And I'm worried that it's probably going to fall down. It's going to fall down. And you're right. Elections do have consequences. So y'all go read a book. Like, Christy, remember we had, in order to graduate, we had to take the citizenship test. Like, remember that? We had to
Oh
learn
wow,
about
ooh, you're dating us.
I
But you're
know, but
right.
you know, it is what it is. But I mean,
We
like, come
did.
on now. I need y'all acting like y'all never took a civics class. Like, you don't know how things work. You're choosing to be and live in your ignorance. And I need y'all to cut it out. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Oh, anyway, we're gonna be watching that to see what happens to the fate of affirmative action. Well, I think it's called something else, but
That's what we
anyway,
know it as.
that's what we know it as. Anyway, we're
Yeah.
going to see how that goes. Plus, there's some other things with the abortion situation. You know what constitutes that. There's a big threat that if the Senate and the House go red, then they're going to nationalize abortion, like to legalize, make it illegal. And there's a bunch of other things they're going to do, including I think they're going to stop the whole January 6th. What's that? The hearings on that, which have been extremely enlightening. Can I just say this? And you know, when we started this show, I really wanted to make sure I came out as yes, we all have our partisan politics that we are a part of, but I really wanted to be open to other ways of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, though, can we be a little concerned that the former president of the United States has had access to like nuclear secrets, and now we're watching some of our biggest foes like try to play with us. Like they're shooting North Korea's throwing missiles. They've already made it clear they want a missile to hit the United States. Like they've already said that.
Mm-hmm.
Russia is powering up. Like I think they're saying that Putin has Parkinson's, and so he ain't got nothing to lose. Like he ain't got nothing to lose. Like if he blows up the world, it don't matter because he's not gonna be in it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just think maybe, just maybe, there was something crazy going on? Like,
Mike, I think it's more. I mean, I think that the dots are there and the connections can be made. It's very apparent he's shisty.
and he's been that way even before.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. The character of the man, he's never changed. And that's why he's the man is gangster. The man is gangster because he said, listen, I am who I am. I might say 2 Thessalonians or Corinthians or whatever he said. Other than
Bible
that,
upside down, hold the Bible upside down.
right. Yeah. Other than that, I'm gonna bring it. I am who I am, and you're gonna love me. And I'm not gonna. He didn't even like try to cover himself. He right from the beginning, he maintained. I look at some of my old, in Facebook memories when posts came up about, right before the election and during the debate season, when Trump was running initially the first time. And I just was reading some of my posts like, wow, yeah, this is exactly what happened. I mean, it was obvious what was going to happen and it happened. And so, we're just seeing the consequences of our decisions as a society. And
We'll see it play out, yeah.
that.
And there's some people who, and I get it. I get that not everybody's going to agree on all the issues. But I'm just looking at some of the stuff. I'm just like, wow, this is pretty intense. But on that note, let's go ahead and take a break, pay a bill, and come on back with our Heads Up. 2020 gave birth to a lot of endeavors. Here in 2021, everyone has had to get in touch with their inner producer. Our man Garrett Brace is one of those guys you need on your team. We at Headspace with Dr. Mike are clients of his as he ensures all of our audio files are crisp, clean, and cool. If you have any audio, video, and even lighting needs, hit him up at G Walt Services on Instagram. Remember, G Walt Services, servicing all your audio, video, and lighting needs. One of my biggest fears whenever I'm flying is a situation where we are potentially going to crash. I mean, I don't know too many people that aren't thinking about that, because I don't really know people when an airliner crashes. I don't know too many people that walk away from them. And so I'm not trying to be dismal or anything like that, but I want you to bear with me, because I have somewhere I'm trying to go with this. Whenever you find yourself in a situation, and I have been in situations on a flight, I'll never forget, it was one particular flight I was on where we all had to do the whole put our heads and out as close to our knees as possible. And what we were told to do was brace for impact. And we ended up not having to do it. It was a rough landing. There was a storm out that came up unexpectedly, and we had to get down because the plane had circled too much, and it was a lot going on. But I remember it being that way. And one of the thoughts recently that came to my mind about that idea is there is always an impact for something that happens, an action that we take. There is always a result of an impact. One of the things I think about that plane, what goes up, it has to come down at some point, right? And so the impact of that moment, the impact of those circumstances required me to put myself in a position that I would not be harmed as bad as I could had I not prepared for it. I need you to let this thing hit you real quick. One of the things that we have to start thinking about is understanding that my parents used to say something growing up. They said there are consequences for your actions. And, to be honest with you, I grew up really not liking the word consequences, because more often than not, when I heard the word consequences, it meant that it was because it meant that I did something bad. And therefore, because I did something bad, the consequence is that I get something bad that happens to me. But actually, consequence is one of those words that just means the results of an action. So if you do something good, you get good consequences. You do something bad, you get bad consequences. But at the end of the day, any action that we take has consequences. It has consequences. And one of those consequences is that there is an impact. For instance, if there was here in Baltimore, two of our longest rivaled high schools, they have this big rivalry: Baltimore City College and Baltimore Polytechnic Institute, and they have the City Poly game. I mean, this rivalry has been going on over 100-something years. Matter of fact, I'm lightweight jealous of it, because I mean, my high school that I went to has a rivalry with Woodlawn High School, but nobody really knows about that. See, like, that doesn't make USA Today. But theirs was like huge, like it's a big deal. And it was a great spirit, atmosphere. All the alum from both of those schools go out. Christy has a cousin that's a part of that, and they go out and they really have a good time, and they fellowship with each other. And it's really a cool time. Well, in that game, because it's a highly contested game, some of the football players decided that they wanted to get in a fight, and they got in a fight. And as a result of the fight, both schools, who actually were on the verge of making it to the state playoffs, are not eligible to compete for a state title. That's the consequence of their decision. But here it is: it's the impact. You make a decision for yourself, because at some point it was one individual player against another individual player who was acting out of their own pride, out of their own feelings, out of their own emotions. But as a result of it, the impact was that the whole team had to pay the price for a bad decision that you made. One of the things I want you all to think about is, as you are making decisions, as you're moving into this new year, as we're preparing on going into 2023, understanding that you have to brace for impact. Like, we're talking about voting. Like, you got to brace for the impact of what the vote is, or you not voting. Decisions that you made years ago, you got to understand that impact is not only about you, but there are other people that are impacted by it, right? There are decisions that I make now that aren't just impacting myself now, but they're impacting my wife, they're impacting my son, they're impacting what's going to happen in their future. There's decisions now that Chevelle and I are making that are going to have an impact on our son when he gets our age, possibly, right? So we always got to brace for the impact. Are you bracing for the impact? Are you thinking about what that could be? From a spiritual side of things, one of the things I realize is that, I always encourage people to really develop a personal relationship with the Lord. And bracing for impact is by building up those types of opportunities, by spending quiet time with him, by learning more about who he is in the Bible, by going and putting yourself in relationships that are going to grow you and going to nurture you, that's helping you brace for the impact later on down the road. That when you find yourself between a rock and a hard place, you're able to not fret. Like, there are people who are jumping off of buildings. There are people who are putting guns in their mouths and shooting their brains out. There are people who are choosing these acts of violence because they feel like they have no hope. Why? Because they didn't brace for impact. One of the things I want to challenge you all, beloved, is brace for impact. Put yourself in a posture where if something imminently bad can possibly happen, that you're bracing so that you can be in the best shape possible. And that, my friends, is my heads up.
Follow the Headspace with Dr. Mike show on all social media platforms at Headspace DM. We want to keep you up to date on all of our hot topics and keep the dialogue going even after the show. We also value what's important to you and your community. DM your show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook. The next time you log on, you may hear Dr. Mike discussing the very topic or issue close to your heart.
Brace for impact, Christy. Are you bracing for impact?
Amen. That was powerful. I'm doing my best.
Look, we got to brace for impact, my friend, especially these days.
Yes, indeed.
So yes, we've been talking about this politics, and Mark Moore, you came on, I believe, when Trump traveled to those places, he was working in his own interests and not those of the United States. I mean, we just got to prove it. Like, we gotta be able to prove it. But I mean, I think I've watched too much Homeland.
I love that show.
I watched too much Homeland, and I think we may be living it out. He has showed us time after time that he's absolutely. He's definitely narcissistic. I don't have a psychology degree, and I can see that. Very much so.
Listen,
very big.
Ray Charles can see it, and he's blind and dead.
Right. So we're still this petty politics kick. This whole idea of free speech. Elon Musk, as you know, purchased Twitter. I think, and this is going to come out so wrong. But Elon Musk is an interesting little character, and I think he called somebody's bluff when he offered as much as he did to purchase Twitter, and I think the board of directors went after him, but then he fired him. So I wonder how they feel about it. But he got a lot of money, so I guess you could be fired. What does that matter? But apparently he has fired over half of the team at Twitter because he's about to go bankrupt.
And I heard he's banned a few people from their Twitter pages.
Oh, he's already banned people from their
I heard
pages?
that he banned a few people from
really?
their
But
Twitter
I thought it was all about free speech with him. Now, there was a report that the N-word has been used has increased over 500%. I think I talked on last show about this. Like, I wasn't a math major, so I thought after 100% you can't go any further. But apparently,
yeah, you can.
I was straight communications and theology, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
So
I feel you. Me too, bro.
So I don't know how that math works. But they're saying over 500% the use of the N-word. And I mean, that's just because there are idiots out there who are just going to try it, that are bored. I mean, they're just bored. Like, but at the same token, I'm almost certain that there's some folk who are saying it because they really believe it. Like, I know that for a fact. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I know that. It's just wild. I don't really do much on Twitter anyway. So it didn't really, I think after Trump got a hold of it, actually, to be honest with you, it really didn't do much for me either before that.
I never was a tweeter. I never was a tweeter. And in fact, my first time tweeting was last year after Mason was born. And then the only other value I recently have had for Twitter was after the infamous slap at the Grammys. I mean, not the Grammys, the Oscars. And that was where we were able to see what really happened because of because that's what really, I mean, not the only thing. Twitter's good for a lot of things. But if you need something, if you need some information, if you need the real deal, you can get it from Twitter.
Particularly Black Twitter. I love Black Twitter.
Oh.
Like, that's the thing. Black Twitter is no, you're right. And there are times where it's just like I go in there for some entertainment. No, you're right. Yeah. Matter of fact, I think we were going back and forth when the slap happened because we were just like, wait. Because I think you and I were arguing about whether or not it was real. Because I just was like, that's not real. That didn't really.
I was like, Mike. No, I saw Will's face. That was real. I mean, he's a good actor. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, Elon Musk.
Anyway, none of us.
We'll see what happens with Twitter. And
yeah, I don't know.
I was hoping that didn't go through.
His name Jack Dorsey or something. I recognize his last name. The guy that one of the founders of Twitter. He actually they're starting something else soon. So we'll see how that plays out. But we're talking about this whole free speech thing. Kyrie Irving, player for the Nets. I was never a fan of his anyway because I didn't really like his vibe when he was at Cleveland. While I'm not a LeBron, I don't stand for LeBron James. I do respect LeBron James, and I do respect what he has done for the game of basketball. And I also love what he does for the community. I really do. But Kyrie Irving just never really impressed me. And then his whole stance on the vaccine just kind of bothered me, just how he was about it. Not that he didn't get it, but just his way of going about things just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But apparently he was tweeting about there's this movie on is it Netflix or Amazon Prime?
I think it's Amazon Prime.
About the Black Hebrews.
It's called From Hebrews to Negroes, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess apparently there are some statements. I haven't watched it, but there are some statements in it that are coming across as anti-Semitic. And yeah,
and I guess I think I read that he just tweeted a link to the now that I'm not sure. Now I have an issue with that. If I tweet the link to the book, that's not me, saying anything anti-Semitic or racist or anything like that. I'm just tweeting like, hey, this is out here. I could be saying, can y'all believe this is out here? This is horrible or whatever. But I don't believe that should be a reason. And unless I'm wrong, I heard the last thing I read, he had only tweeted the link to the movie.
Yeah. Christy, I think for me, and I'm having a hard time understanding. Look, if a person is a racist, I'd actually rather hear that I'd rather hear from their mouth that they're racist. Like, tell me that you're racist, because at least I know where you stand. Like, if this is how you feel about me, good. We got it out there. Now I can understand where we stand. I can understand how we can roll, how we can operate. So for me, I don't know. I don't really understand the arguments. Like, even some of the stuff that Kanye has said, if you eat the fish and spit out the bone of some of the stuff he says, I actually understand where he's coming from. I'm not saying I agree with him, but I do understand some of what he's trying to say, right? And I think the same thing with this issue. Like, what is wrong with me telling you, look, this is something that's out there. Watch it for yourself and form your own impressions about it. For whatever reason, whatever they're presenting in it. I mean, I guess because I haven't watched it, I don't know. And if somebody's familiar with it, let us know. Are they basically kind of going the Hitler route, like blaming Jews for what has happened?
Again, I have not watched it and read much about what it is about. But I do it from the title and from the subtitle. I think the subtitle is "Wake Up Black America" or something like that, right? So to me, and I'm making assumptions, so I'm being very clear about this. I am assuming that it's talking about who the quote unquote real Jews are, who they are, who the real Jews are, and an attempt to educate Black America about their roots and who this movie says we are and where we came from and all of that. So that is what I'm getting from it. whether or not it gets into, I'm sure it probably does, some anti-Semitic tone. Yeah. But I think we have to be careful with this free speech thing. And again, I think the theme of this show today should be consequences of your actions, of your actions, right? Because even you talked about the vaccine with Kyrie and all of that, and that whole thing, people sparring about whether or not I have the right to decide whether I want to get a vaccine, and should my decision to not get one mean I can't work because I decided to do that. Like, we got to be careful. We got to be careful. We got to tread lightly on how much we rah about certain things, because they trickle down into other areas. And then we'll look up and be like, oh, well, shoot, I can't do what they're saying I can't. So let's be careful.
Keep your mouth shut. Look, a producer friend of mine, he works on Amazing Race. And one of the things somebody was saying to him in TikTok was, he was saying, so you're saying to me, if I don't get these vaccines, I can't be on Amazing Race? He was like, yeah, basically, like, I get it that you don't want to get the vaccine, but as part of what we believe that we need to do to keep everyone safe and to also meet the needs of the requirements of the countries that we're going to visit. Yeah, I mean, and so there's you making that decision is fine, but just understand that that's the consequence for it. Like, that is, and I love that you said that, Christy, because you're right. Yes, I can have an opinion about what I feel, but then I can't be mad at the blowback that I get from just choosing to express my opinion. Now, I will say, from an academic standpoint, there is, about the Hotep movement, right? And then you also have the pan black movement that really has actually, even as a student of theology, I have questioned the view that I have taken on certain things biblically, because we do know now that in translation, each time it took on a certain bent. Case in point, James, like the book of James, Jesus's brother, his name's not James. James was not a name that a person could be during that time. Do you know why he's named James in our Bible? Because King James wanted to have his name represented in a main character in the Bible.
Wow.
What is the main version of the Bible that we used for years? Matter of fact, there's a lot of conservative churches that still only use the what?
King James
version. Now, the King James version was not translated directly from Greek.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, Greek is not the original language of some of the books in the New Testament. It's Aramaic. And you got to remember this, that they didn't have a photocopy of the tablet. They couldn't put the tablet on a photocopy. So it had to be scrolled. And some of the issues that we have in some things is, so the point, what is the point you're making, Dr. Mike? The point I'm making is that there is some opportunity for us to have educated and academic conversations. For instance, one of the things that's happening, like in the when you talk about the Black church, is well, you know what? Let's go ahead and get back into this after we take our next break.
Yeah, let's pause.
Our world is filled with polarizing topics that land most people on one side or the other. The Headspace with Dr. Mike team isn't afraid to take them on. Monthly, we will invite people on both sides of some of the most controversial topics, from the serious to the silly, to debate their positions. We look forward to charged discussions that will inform and entertain. DM your head-to-head show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook at Headspace DM.
So yeah, so one of the things I was pointing out, Christy had to step out for 2 seconds, but James, his name is actually Jacob, Yaakov, right? Actually, that's his name, the half brother of Jesus, the one that didn't even get saved till after Jesus died. If you're familiar with the story of James, that when Jesus was alive, he wasn't even trying to be a follower of his, And actually, it was after Jesus died that he actually had his enlightenment and, became, the rest is history. But James, like, that was the thing. So the point I'm making is that there are things that we do and we have to study for ourselves, right? And start asking that. And so the reason I was bringing that up was there is conversation, and it has been conversation over the last few decades. Was Egypt as bad as they are presented in the Bible? Like, we really were led to believe, that the Egyptians were these just horrible, these folk. But actually, there is some evidence that points to the fact that it wasn't. There was also some other stuff going on too, if that makes sense. Mark said that's why it's important to compare scripture to scripture whenever poisoning. I don't think he meant poisoning. And
positioning.
Even positioning, yeah, something like that. Even when it used historic books outside the Bible, absolutely, yeah. Like, that's why. Well, look, the Bible says, "Study to show thyself approved." Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times when people look at that, when you go to the original language, that word "study" is actually the same word that's used for strenuous labor. It literally means to put sweat, to put energy, to put effort into studying the Bible. You know, a lot of us. I'm gonna be honest with you. It's, a lot of folk, they see this glamour of the TD Jakes and, the Mike Todds and all them getting up there, but what they don't see is the hours upon hours upon hours that has to go into them understanding what that word is. And I'll even take it a step further. That's why sometimes they even get some of it wrong. Their interpretation of it is off because they haven't taken time to study the historical context, to understand. There's so many scriptures that we take out of context.
My God.
We have to be careful about because we're based off this English version, right? Yeah. The idea of and this is going to cause some controversy. Some people are going to be mad when I say this, but how many times have we been in church where they said, "You know what? I need you to grab hands of two of your neighbors and say, where two or three are gathered, there I am in the midst." Actually, when you study the context of that passage, what you find is that is actually talking about church discipline. It's talking about the fact that when somebody is doing something that they're not supposed to do, that I'm pulling in other folks so that they can be a witness to it. And if the other ones are in agreement, if we're together on this, then what you bind on earth is bound in heaven. I'm in agreement with it. Why? Because you did your due diligence to make sure it wasn't just you, Christy, in your opinion, saying something about it. But what a lot of times it is what it is. Like, it's like, all right, I'm standing in agreement with you about this situation. All right, that's fine. It's always nice to know that we stand in agreement. But let me tell you something. If I go and say, "In the name of Jesus," and I'm sitting here at my desk by myself in an empty house, guess what? He going to agree with it. Why? Because I prayed it to him. Yeah.
Yo, we went. So now you, yeah. You trying to preach. You trying to preach.
We went way off topic. So
you went from Bible study to the pulpit.
Go back to the original Kyrie Irving. I don't know what that's about. We're going to have to stay tuned and pay attention to what that is. Whew. All right, let's go somewhere else because y'all just trying to make me get there today. Christy, can I tell you, I am pumped.
What?
I have my ticket ready to go to Wakanda.
I don't know why I don't know why you're pumped because I
am pumped to go to Wakanda, and I'm mad because I have to wait till Saturday night. I can't even do it on opening night.
Oh, that's the ticket you're talking about.
Well, I gotta wait. Oh, wait. I need to step back?
No. You're fine. No. Wakanda is fine because Rob and I are going on Thursday night.
Oh, jeez. Oh. I am. Let me tell you something. I stop life. I stop breathing every time a trailer comes on. Like,
I'm so like, I'm like nervous. I'm gonna need a tissue ministry. Are they going to have ushers at these theaters with the tissue in the aisles to pass around? Like, are they going to be prepared for the emotional turmoil and we're going to experience?
Yeah. I know I'm not. From what I'm hearing from LA, from some folk that have gone to the premiere, it very well could win an Oscar.
I'm excited. I mean,
and the decisions that were made, ABC did this phenomenal. But if y'all need to find it, they did this phenomenal presentation about it last night. And I think now I understand why they chose not to recast Black Panther. I think And I, you know what? I can live with it. We can never have another Martin Luther King. We can never have another Malcolm X, right? And I get it that we want, you know, the character, but what Chadwick Boseman embodied in that role, he's a one of a kind.
Absolutely.
And how he carried himself, I'm getting choked up. How he carried himself in the midst of the adversity that he was going through. You want to talk about impact? He recognized that it was much bigger than him.
Yes. He served, you know, I did not see the whole special, but I did see the portion where they interviewed his wife.
Yes.
And when you really got insight on what drove him.
Yes.
And what he knew he had a purpose. And this was part of it. And I mean, those 42 years that he lived, man.
Yes.
Listen, what an impact.
She said he was an artist. They met. She said, I think they met right after he did Ray Charles.
The other one. Get On Up.
Get On Up. Yeah. Who was that? James Brown.
James Brown. Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you this. I used to say this about Denzel. I may not like the movie that Denzel was in, but the level of professionalism that Denzel exhibited with the characters that he portrayed, like you couldn't argue with. Chadwick Boseman, same thing. Like, I don't care what character he played, he owned the role.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, he gave value to the movie, in my opinion. So anyway, all that to say, my sister-in-law has made our shirts. I'm going to be wearing. I have a white long sleeve tee.
So the color is white, right? Because we're getting a whole. Mike, I made a post last week, and I was like, "Can we just get on one accord here about the color?" Because some people saying purple, some people are saying black. I'm like, no, I thought the color was white.
I heard white. I have a white. My little Mike and I and Sharella, my sister-in-law, has made these shirts. We got the necklace on the shirt. I got Wakanda Forever in the sleeve.
You're ready.
I have never been so excited about movie. And here's the other piece of it. What I appreciate was how they're bringing. I think someone on that show last night even talked about how brown people are on the screen together. So we have this Mexican aspect to it too.
Yes. Yeah, I watched a special or an interview, maybe it was, where the Mexican population, Hispanic population, I should say, was just speaking about how powerful it is that they are now being represented in a film like this. And so it's just, I'm proud. This will be the first time Rob and I will be in a theater since COVID.
Okay.
So this will be the first time. So I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. Now, listen, we're going to talk about the other ticket that I thought you were referring to in the next segment. You want to go to break?
Yeah, but before we go to break, real quick,
okay.
No, we're gonna pick this up. Let's go into break because I want to talk about that other ticket that you're talking about. All right.
Okay.
Focused on photo, versed in video, For Any Media brings visions to life from headshots to family shoots, casual candids to structured scenes. Our team can provide whatever you need. In Baltimore, you may have seen us at local events such as the Poly City Tailgate or the Randallstown ROM. You can find us on all social media platforms at the number 4 Any Media. For Any Media, for anything. Contact us so we can create.
All right, what ticket are you talking about, Christy?
So I'm talking about the Powerball ticket because I'm going to be a billionaire tonight. Did y'all know that?
I guess we're going to be double billionaires then because we're going to have to share it because, I mean, I'm going to win tonight too.
Oh, well, maybe we got the same numbers or something.
Probably.
And we're going to be split. I'm fine with splitting it. I'll split it 10, 5, 100 ways. I'm fine.
Listen. I mean, just, yeah.
Because
but y'all are going to say Dr. Mike Millionaire. Like, that's how you're going to address me, Dr. Millionaire. Actually, that's what I'm going to go by, Dr. Millionaire.
Billionaire.
Well, if both of us win it, we not both win.
Oh, I forgot I was splitting it that fast. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry to ruin it for you. You're not going to be a billionaire yet.
Okay, millionaires.
But
I guess I
millionaire.
can. I guess I can accept it.
So, Christy,
Yeah.
I asked this question last week because you weren't able to be on here last week. So I asked this question last week. What are a couple of things that you are going to do
When
when you win?
with my millions? Oh my goodness, Lord. I am going, of course. You know, people say I'm not going to say the typical stuff, pay off your debt and all of that. Of course, you're
Sure,
going to
sure.
do that. But when I tell you, baby, I'm going to travel. But what I really want to do, I really want to build like a community where my family can just live and we can just be close by and, you know, watch each other's kids and just be around and just, you know, have celebrations together. I would love, because my family, I have a pretty large family, and we're mostly in Baltimore, but you know, just everywhere. And then after COVID, you know, you get together here and there, but I would just love to be around my cousins and mom and sisters and extended family and just be able to see them whenever I wanted and not have to worry about a thing.
You know what? You hearing you say that remind me of Greenleaf, like how they had that whole big compound.
Yes.
I want a compound, a gated compound that everybody has their little plot where they build their house of their type. Like we're our own community, but it's us. It's the North Sea Estates, the Bishop Estates, or whatever have you. Yeah, I'm definitely. That's. I said I'm with you with the travel. That I'm going on Below Deck, the TV show.
Really?
Oh yeah, I'm going on Below Deck, and you on the short list. You and Rob on the short list.
Well, thank you.
I'm going to invite because I'm doing a couple trips.
Okay. Okay.
I'm doing a couple. I am going to do a couple of those Below Deck-esque trips, and I want to do the one with Captain James because he's the down under one. So that's
I
the one
don't
do.
watch Below Deck. My sister watches.
Oh, you're missing a treat. You're missing a treat. Yeah, you need to catch Below Deck. But anyway, yes, I've already said that. I'm with you. Yeah, like the paying off the debt, that's a given. Like that's going to happen. But yeah, and I'm going to research the tax person and the financial planner. I'm not going to make a decision right away. Matter of fact, you know what? I probably should just start interviewing folk now so they can.
You
so
should. You should be prepared. Be also ready.
Yeah. And you know, and there's gonna be some stipulations if I give anybody money. And I'm not gonna necessarily loan people money. But there's gonna be some stipulations for it if I give it to you.
How you know, part of you wants to shout it from the rooftops, right? But then the wise thing is to keep it very quiet.
I mean, me mailing my laptop and all my equipment back to the state of Maryland, including my badge and stuff.
That won't say that you won the lottery. That just says that you resigned.
And changing my phone numbers.
All of that.
Living in Australia, like
I'm just looking forward to what God will allow us to do as these new millionaires. And
my alma mater better be ready because I've already said that they're going to get one of the largest donations ever, and I don't want it to be a dorm. It's not going to be a place where people snot and brush their teeth and poop all night. It's going to be a place where people get PhDs.
There you go.
That's the building that I'm building.
Okay.
That's the building I'm building.
Absolutely.
Like people are coming up. People are working towards their PhDs in the building that I'm building at that campus.
So Mark,
every day they're gonna have to know that a black man helped. Not only is that named after that, because you're not. I'm gonna get in trouble for this one, but I hope I do. You're not just naming it because you feel like it's the right thing to do for diversity's sake, but you naming it after a black man because a black man helped build it.
Mm-hmm. And
all right, I'm sorry. I got it.
Well, Mark said that.
I want to say before we go on break, Christy, I think I just stepped on you. So apparently we're falling back for the last time. We're falling back for the last time. And then in the spring, we're springing forward. But then that's it. Like, it doesn't change. And guess what? People still aren't happy because apparently if we fall back and then spring forward in some parts of the country, the time that it'll be in some parts of like the winter or something is that it will be dark at 9 a.m. still.
You just can't win.
You can win. Didn't he say that in the Wiz?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
So,
I'm over the whole falling back thing personally. I hope this is the last time, but we every year it's this. So we'll see what actually
but it's
happens.
a law now. Like I think it's a law that it has to, like we have to keep it, right?
Again,
All right.
we'll see.
Well, let's go ahead and take our final break, and then
Follow the Headspace with Dr. Mike show on all social media platforms at Headspace DM. We want to keep you up to date on all of our hot topics and keep the dialogue going even after the show. We also value what's important to you and your community. DM your show ideas to us on Instagram or Facebook. The next time you log on, you may hear Dr. Mike discussing the very topic or issue close to your heart.
Kevin in Denver, I don't know why your comments are not coming up here, but you've been commenting away on Facebook. Thank you, brother. He said we got to send him some of our money, though. At least he didn't concede that. At least he's come to grips with the fact that he's not going to win.
Yeah, Mark has been talking too. He's been commenting as well. I see it.
He said he's saying going to send us a piece of money. Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah,
we got that written down. It's a paper trail now.
Next week we'll be broadcasting from the Headspace with Dr. Mike studios.
Oh yeah,
that rivals Oprah's former studios. So anyway, you know what? I love you all. You got any last words to say, anybody, Christy?
I have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy this beautiful day. If you're in Baltimore, if you're in Maryland, it's a beautiful day. Enjoy. Oh yes, I want to say happy birthday to my sister. It's my sister's birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, sis. Which one is that?
Lisa.
What's her name? Lisa, that's right.
Yes.
Happy birthday to you, Lisa. Happy birthday to you, Lisa. Happy birthday. So she's a Scorpio?
I don't know. I have no
you
idea.
Don't pay attention to those things?
No, I don't think she's a Scorpio. I don't know.
Okay. All right. Something. All right. Well, on that note, we wish you all the best that God has for you. Until we meet again, everybody, peace.
Thanks for tuning in to Headspace with Dr. Mike. We hope you enjoyed the show. Be sure to follow us on social media at Headspace DM to continue the dialogue with other Headspacers regarding today's show. Everyone is filling their headspace with something. The question is, what are you filling yours with? Tune in next week.